Juez Sheilla Murphy. La juez Murphy es graduada de la Escuela de Leyes DePaul de Marquette University. Fue defensora pública y juez asociada en el condado Cook de ese circuito, donde llegó a ser presidenta. Ha impartido cursos de justicia restaurativa con el profesor Sten, muy reconocido en esta área, en China, la República Checa y Taiwán. El tema que ella nos presentará hoy se titula Justicia Restaurativa con un nuevo paradigma, fundamentos y definición. Así que yo creo que es una conferencia sumamente interesante porque ella nos va a definir lo que entendemos por justicia restaurativa y el por qué estamos hablando de eso en estos momentos. Bienvenida, doctora Murphy.
Thank you so much. It is a great honor to be here. It's just an incredible place, and there's such beautiful energy in the room. The Chinese call it qi, and we call it grace. And it's a fantastic thing to be here. So I'd like to just start out by thanking Father Oscar for coming to Chicago with others last year at the Loyola University. It was sponsored by the Extension magazine, and my son, who's a deacon in Knoxville, Tennessee, was also able to read there. And it was at that conference at Loyola University in Chicago that Father Oscar talked to me about coming and about having a conference on restorative justice. And it's just a dream come true. Is Father here? Can we give him a hand? Oh. And I want to say that I have been a lawyer for 50 years, and I got tears in my eyes when I came to this building and saw Abogados and Abogadas. And it was fantastic. Could we have all the Abogados and all the Abogadas? Stand up. Stand up. And I had never, this is the first time I've ever been here, but I heard about Puerto Rico for a long time. I've heard about it for 57 years, because 57 years ago, my husband, Patrick Racy, was on the United States USS The Sullivan, named after the 5 Sullivan brothers who died at sea in the Second World War. And he came steaming into your port in 57 years ago. Patrick, would you stand up? Thank you, Patrick. So I'd like to just start out by the end. I was interviewed by several people this morning, and they wanted to know, who else is doing it? You're doing restorative justice at a university. Who else is doing restorative justice in the world? And so I thought I would tell you right away who's doing it. I'll tell you who's doing it is the Pope. He talks about mercy. He talked about having a whole year with nothing but mercy. And I will tell you that before the Pope, this wonderful Pope was made Pope, it was being done in Rome. And I'll tell you the story. There were a group of high school kids, and in Rome, you don't have to take religion in high school if you don't want to. But they wanted to. But they thought, how would it be if we pretended that we were Jesus? And they were just in high school. And what would Jesus do in Rome? And they thought, oh, it'd be easy. There's all these restaurants, and the restaurants, restaurant, where's our restaurant? There, thank you for talking about restaurants today. Fantastic, Jonathan. Anyway, they thought the restaurants have bread, and we could pick up the bread, and the old day old bread, and give it away underneath underneath the bridges where people are homeless. So they started picking up the bread. And then they saw children, and children were out by themselves, and so they thought, Maria Montessori, we could have a school for them. And then they thought about old people who never get to go on vacation. What about if we took old people out of the old folks' homes and let them go to a little island for a week or two? And they started doing all this. And that is what is bringing restorative justice to the world. And they started doing this just in Rome. And then they had an epidemic in Naples. And Rinaldo Pisasoni was sent to Naples for 8 years to help the poor people there. And then they started sending people other places. Now, when I say sending people, they have these. They have a fantastic soup kitchen in Rome. And when you go there, they invite you to serve the food. But they don't do it like we do in Chicago, and everybody goes through the line, they throw it on a plate. At San Egidio, everyone sits down like in a restaurant. And they are served, the prima and then segunda, and they are served and they're treated beautifully. But the best of all is on Christmas Day. They have a church that was given to them. They have two churches that were given to them by popes. The Sancta Maria in Trastevere. And you would love this. You would love it. You who built this beautiful cathedral here. That it is all beautiful with Christ in the middle. And what do you think Christ is doing? He's hugging his mother. He's hugging his mother. At Christmas time, they take all the pews out of the church and they have a great celebration and bring the homeless in. So if you are asked when you leave here, what is restorative justice? Restorative justice is giving joy and giving kindness and giving goodness away any way you can. And the people who are doing this have their own jobs. When I was working for a week in the soup kitchen, one night I was with a brain surgeon, and another night I was with a banker who was helping. So they all have their own jobs, but their job that they are the closest to is working in San Egidio. Now, if they had what we have, housing for the poor, that is government, and what you have, you know what they do? They take off and they go into the housing and they live with the poor. They cook for the poor. They read to the poor. They help the children with their homework. Now that's restorative justice that's alive and well in Rome. So if you could be the San Egidio in Puerto Rico. Yes, so you could think about that. And when I talked to Father Oscar, and he has we'll give him all the contacts. So what about the rest of the world? Well, Michael Sang is a doctor of law, and he was going to be here. But that's the good news. But the bad news is that he was unable to come because he got an award to train people how to do fair housing throughout the country. So that's what he is doing. He got a $1.5 million grant to help people get housing. So I send you his regrets for not coming, but he will come another time. So if you go into the history of restorative justice, it's amazing. It's amazing that it was there. The Navajo Indians in America, the Utes, the Comanches, they all had it. They sat in circles. They passed the peace pipe. They talked to each other. They respected each other as best they could. And my favorite restorative justice, I learned a little bit from my Irish grandmother. She was born on an island off the coast of Ireland. And a lot of these old ways were preserved on the island, Achill Island. At any rate, going all the way back before Britain came to Ireland, They had restorative justice. And what did that mean? Well, it meant a lot for women because women were not put down. Women were not abused. Women were not, in other words, women could not only come to court and be in court, but they were judges, they were brehons, they were also lawyers, they could inherit property, own property, and if you left the marriage, you could leave with your own property, unlike everything in the British law. And not only was it good for women, but it was good because there were no prisons. So because if it's the whole principle of restorative justice is it's about the community. It's about all the people. It's not about this judge or this king or this governor or this president. It's about the community in a circle. And why? What did they do instead of having prisons? Well, if you murdered someone, if you killed someone, you would have to be a slave to that family the rest of your life. That would be what you had to do. And so what would happen if you just didn't do it, if you were not kind, if you were not good, if you didn't show up? Well, they had lots of islands. And if you could not be a member of the community and repairing the community and repairing the harm you did and taking the life, then they would take you out to an island and you could live with the birds and live with the sea, but you couldn't live in Ireland. So, and I was amazed when we were in Berlin. I saw a map. The Celts were all over the middle of Europe, the Eastern Europe, the middle of Central Europe. So now they had their own communities, and they had restorative justice in those communities. So we know that it can be done. And how can it be done? It can be done just like they're doing it at San Egidio. Who needs help? What kind of help do we need? Well, we need kindness. And I had the great joy this morning of meeting Dr. Gladys Escalina de Motla. And she reminded me this morning of what is America doing that's very important for restorative justice. I will tell you what she told me. We are leading the world in restorative justice because of neuroscience. And she is a PhD. Would you stand up, please? Please stand up. Doctor, thank you. She has spent her life's work studying the neurology of the brain. And if you know what the neurology of the brain is, then you know how terrible it is what we are doing to prisoners. Being in prison is enough if they've taken away the freedom. So what we should be doing is helping them in every single way of kindness. Now, I went to Halden Prison in Norway. I talked to we call him the warden. They don't call it the warden there, they call it the president. I talked to the president, and I said, how come, where are all the guards? I don't see any guards. He said, the guards are with the people. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, if our residents, not prisoners, if our residents are playing soccer, they better be playing soccer. If our residents are learning to play a musical instrument or compose music, if they know a musical instrument, they better be in the music room. If they are, whatever the residents are doing, and what do we do with this? With the kindness. And so I said, now wait a minute, who are these, what we would call guards? How do you get these guards to do this? Our guards beat people up. We have all kinds of violence in the prisons. Oh, he said, no, our guards go to college, and if they want to be work in a prison, they have to go to graduate school for 2 years. And I said, well, what do they learn in graduate school? And kindness. Kindness. So I think the heart of restorative practice is kindness. But also, you have to well, the good doctor tells us that our brains can change. She said it so beautifully. She said, the brain is not static. That's what she said this morning. It's just so exciting. The brain is not static. We can change any time. We have hemispheres in the brain that will change. So how do we do that? We do that with kindness. We do this with feeling out people, what do they need? Listening. And that is one of the reasons that our lawyers are doing so well. Because for a long time in law school, you could not go to law school in America unless you took this LSAT, this law test, which I did horrible on. I did one of the worst things that anybody ever took the test. I was a disaster. And my father said my father was a lawyer. He said, this is the worst thing in the world. He said it'd be like keeping St. Francis of Assisi out of the Catholic Church, because you're going to get these lawyers who are geeks, who just go from the ears up. But we know that that we have to keep lawyers who have heart. And a lot of the young people who go to law school have been denied the opportunities to give away what they've been given. So what we do in our law school is we teach restorative justice. We teach them how to talk, rap talk with each other. And we teach them how to listen. Because when they went to law school, they thought, I have to learn how to cross-examine. I have to learn how to do the final argument. And I have to learn how to object. No, all that comes. You can see that. But the most important thing is to listen. So if you listen, with deep listening, that's what they are learning. And this one young woman said, I can't believe I'm just a different person than when I came into to law school. I'm a different person. My mind is different. And we know why, because the neurologist, the neuroscience tells us. She said, I had never seen a Hispanic person. I had never seen an African-American person. I had never seen anybody with white people. I lived in Barrington. And she said, and my dog didn't either. And so when I went away to college, she said, I was afraid to go to college without my dog. And my dog, there's something was wrong with his brain, because every time he saw somebody who was black or Hispanic or whatever, Chinese, he'd start barking. So his brain wasn't formed either. So you see, their brains are not even formed if they don't have a chance to have us all around each other. You see what I mean? The people these lawyers were deprived of something so important. And the other thing that they were deprived of is compassion. Because many times their parents would say, do your homework, clerk. And they're on all these games at night, the war games, this game, that game, and they play it with all around the world. Well, what about compassion? What about compassion? And if you don't learn it for other people, you don't have it for yourself. Now, let me say that again. If we don't learn compassion for other people, we don't have it for ourselves. And how do I know that? Because I didn't have any compassion for myself. I really would talk to myself and say, you shouldn't have done that. What? And I wake up in the morning and I think, did I say the wrong thing last night? Would I get in trouble? What am I doing? My problem, I was drinking too much, because I have these Irish genes and German genes, but they all came from the people that were alcoholic and right into me. And so I condemned myself all the time because I was doing this, and then and what was worst of all, sometimes I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember what I did. And that was terrible. So here I was, not compassionate with others, because I was always fighting with my brothers. You know, even by telephone, I could fight with them. And I was a very good fighter, by the way. I will tell you, learning compassion for myself was wonderful. Learning to talk to myself and listen, just listen. Because my grandmother, my German grandmother from Westfalen, who worked for a bishop, well, we have a bishop somewhere. Where's our bishop? Right there. We have a bishop. She worked on the Rhine and cooked for a bishop when she was in school. And she said that we have to listen. We have to listen because if we don't listen, we can't hear what God's saying to us. We're so busy talking to everybody and making ourselves so important. And the way we are important is the way we give ourselves away. And the relatives in Ireland who are very poor say, oh, it's all right, because when we leave, we'll have everything given away, and we can, and we'll be in heaven. So what about us? How do we individually do restorative justice? I think we have to start with ourselves. Would you like to start right now? Let's do it. All right, so could you stand up, please? So if we're going to be kind to ourselves, we have to be kind to our bodies. So we have to take care of our bodies. And we could start right now just by bringing your arms up and back and down. And if you feel that, bring them all the way up, your shoulders up to your ears and down. Up and down. Good. And now the other way. The other way. And then you can just put one hand over the other, and then you just say, help me if I'm going to the left, to the north, or to the south, or the east, or the west. So now if you can, all the way up now. And this should be your favorite one, because this is the sun. The sun is in a circle, and we make circles when we do restorative justice. So we can wake up and just put the sun all around us. And when we get worried and we get upset, we can give ourselves a hug and tell us that we're good enough. And why are we good enough? Where did we come from? We came from this beautiful God. And up again and down. And now hands behind and just kind of lean forward. Good. Oh, you're wonderful. And now, how does it feel loving yourself? Doesn't it feel wonderful? Huh? You can have a seat now. So sometimes I think that if we love ourselves more, it's easier to love everyone else. Now, in America, somebody asked me, one of these interviewers I had this morning said, is there anybody doing restorative justice in America in a court? And I said, yes, there are many. But let me tell you my favorite. My favorite is in New York, Brooklyn, New York. If you ever get to New York, to Brooklyn, you can go to the Red Hawk Court. And in there's a judge, and the courthouse has all sorts of things. So the courthouse has someone there helping you make a resume. They have a pharmacist there who will help you get your prescription if you are, because many people have troubles because they're mentally ill and they need medication and they need help. They have social workers there. They have all these things in the court. And the court, guess where the court is? It's in an old Catholic school. The Catholic school closed up, And then the Catholic Church closed up, and the community liked to go there. They liked to go to the church, and so they decided that's where they wanted to have their court, at the Red Hook Court. And I went there with Dr. Stang, and I went there with some law students, and the judge acted like a crier. You know, usually you can't hear what's going on in court very well with somebody else, but the judge reads all, like if somebody's on probation and he's doing well or she's doing well, the judge reads it out, and the person is standing there, and he reads what's happened. And there's no drops of heroin, no cocaine, no marijuana, no alcohol. This is wonderful. This is great. And then how are you doing looking for a job? And they give tickets to the shows. They give tickets to the ballet. They give tickets to the symphony, so they can go with another person and feel like they're somebody. That gives them dignity to go there. And we saw that happening also in Norway. They have the theaters there call the court and say, how many tickets do you need? How many people are coming before you? You see what I mean? Because they feel good about themselves. Anyway, this law student said, well, you know, Judge, how many times do they, if they have hot drops, in other words, if they are using marijuana, using heroin, whatever, when do you put them in prison? And the judge said, oh, no, I don't put them in prison. You see, if they're having troubles with narcotics, if they're still using, I'm doing something wrong. They're not getting an intensive enough treatment. That's my fault. Why would I send them to the penitentiary where they get no help at all? No help. So let me tell you the other thing that happens, not just at Red Hook Court, but in the federal system in Chicago, in the federal system in Los Angeles and New York, there are judges who feel very guilty because they sent people away. Because they had to, because that was the law. They sent people away. They were addicts when they left the courthouse. They were addicts 10 years later when they came back. Those judges feel terrible. So now, what the judges are doing is they have a re-entry court. And the re-entry court is a wonderful thing. These prisoners, former prisoners, come in, and the judges are not sitting up on the bench. The judges are sitting down with the returning people. And when they come in, they talk to them and they find out how they're doing. But you'll love how do they get these former prisoners to come? Guess what they do? They go to the Salvation Army halfway house. These judges, these federal judges, go to the halfway house of the Salvation Army, and they talk to these people. They say, we're just getting peace, but first we have to show them compassion. And when I represented a young man in Texas, actually several of them, after I left the bench, I thought I worked against the death penalty in Illinois. And the reason I was so adamant about the death penalty was because when I was a judge, there would have been at least 2 people, maybe 3, who would have been executed if they'd had a different judge. So I thought, this is terrible. Judges make mistakes. Judges are human. We can't do this. And so we worked and we abolished the death penalty in Illinois in 2011. Then I went to Texas and worked and helped there. And that was because of Santa Gidio. They were already in Texas, these people from Rome were in Texas at death row, and they asked me to take the case of Dominique Green. And I took that case, and I learned from a law student who I took with me how to treat people. I would sit down with Dominique and I'd be talking about this case and talking about that case and talking about the law. And I brought this law student with me, and he sat down. And what do you think he said to Dominique? He said, Dominique, what kind of music do you like? And that opened the whole doors of Dominique. And Dominique started telling about the music he liked. And I thought, oh, look at this young man. You see what I mean? I went in there as a lawyer, not as a humanist. I thought I was doing restorative justice, but you don't unless you go to the heart of a person, the heart. So we were not able to save Dominique, but 3 hours before they killed him, he asked me if I would continue the struggle. And he said, you know, if I had had you for a mother, or if I had been able to go to a school that cared about people, or if I'd been able to be in juvenile court, in detention, and not been raped all the time, if all those things had happened, if you could save children from having things happen to them like happened to me. And he asked me not to bring his mother he said, I'm not going to put my mother on the list. I want you to be my mother when I die. I want you there. But in the last moment, I thought, if he has a moment where he wishes his mother was there, and she's not there, that would be terrible. So I let her come. And we both sat down with Dominique, and he said to his mother, will you just sit and listen to Sheilla and listen and learn how to talk like a mother? Because I still have 2 brothers, and you could talk like a mother to them, even if you weren't able to do it to me. You see, but this young man, we got a book, and the name of the book was There Is No Future Without Forgiveness. It was written by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And Archbishop Tutu, you know, in South Africa, all the good works he did. Well, he heard about Dominique Green because Dominique Green read that book, and he started, this young man that started bringing forgiveness to death row. Can you imagine that? On death row, he was campaigning for forgiveness. He forgave his mother. He forgave everyone, all the guards who were cruel to him. He forgave them all. And when he forgave them, he became a different person. Because all the resentment, all the hate, all the violence that had been done to them was gone. And just like the doctor says, the hemisphere of his brain was changed. It was changed to mercy, just what our Pope talks about. Mercy for everyone. No resentment. Give up the resentment and just go for mercy. And so the last time I was, of course, the last person to see him before the execution, but he said to me, would you see if you could help the struggle and help other children so they don't, and other adults, so they don't leave the world like I do. And that's exactly, and Patrick was there. Patrick was in the parking lot, and he said that when they executed Dominique, lightning went off in the sky. But the beautiful thing was that Archbishop Desmond Tutu heard about Dominique, and he said, there is a saint on death row, and he came to Texas to see Dominique. He came to Texas, and he brought prayer books from South Africa, and Dominique was able to give the prayer books to the sons of the person who had been murdered. Dominique was not the one who murdered him. It was a white man, and the family of the victims never believed that Dominique did it. And they were not allowed to stay in the courthouse when this white man was testifying. So you see how one person on death row, look what he did. Look how he changed me. Because I went to Rome because I wanted a boondoggle. I wanted to bring students there because I thought it'd be a fun place to do. And I met San Egidio, and they introduced me to Dominique. So how do I know that all this works? This restorative justice works. Well, it started with me. It started with me learning to love myself, because I had to give up something. I had to give up alcohol. I had to, which it was my best friend. You know, Patrick thought he was my best friend. He was wrong. It was alcohol. So I had to give up alcohol, and I had to go to meetings. And at the meetings, all these people were just like me, only we learned how to love each other. And as we learned how to love each other, we all got better. And the more we got better, then we try to tell other people and help other people. The same thing with food. I'm addicted to sugar. Sugar. If you give me something with sugar in it, watch out. I'll eat yours too. So, whatever it is, we know now that our brain, as the good doctor says, our brain is not static. Our brain is moving. And America American scientists, like your wonderful doctor here, are in the forefront of neuroscience. Why can't we be in the forefront of restorative justice? We can, and we will. And wait till you hear what I have for you. I found a Celtic poem just for you people from this wonderful place, because it's about the sun and God. So here it is. The sun is worshipped in the eye and face of God. And so I told these people who interviewed me this morning, let me tell you, if Puerto Rico gets restorative justice, they're going to be better than New York, they're going to be better than Chicago, they're going to be better than LA, they'll be better than any place. Because you have the sun. The sun lifts you up. We have gray skies all the time. We go, ugh. Now wait till you hear what they said anciently about the sun. And by the way, the Celts didn't like the cross. They didn't like that cross at all because they thought it was sad. They like to be happy. They like the sun like you do. So what they did is they put a circle. Remember the circle? Put the circle around the cross so they could see the sun. And that's what you do. You look at the sun all the time. So you'll be able to help so many people, including ourselves. So here it is. The eye of the great God, the eye of the goal of glory, the eye of the King of hosts, the eyes of the King of the living, pouring upon us at each time and season, pouring upon us gently and generously. Glory to thee, thou glorious Son. Glory to thee, thou Son, face of the God of life. And in this poem, he talks about the ear and the eye of God. And I just want to talk about the ear for 1 minute. So, when we were in our mommy's tummy, the first thing that was formed was the ear. The ear was the very first thing. So anything you do with the ear can help the whole body. And what a doctor found out is if you do acupuncture in the ear, 3 or 5 needles, all of a sudden you can be put in balance. And why is this important? Well, it's important because I met this doctor. His name was Dr. Smith, Dr. Michael Smith. And I went to Las Vegas because he was the doctor who wrote the protocol for all the drug courts in America. And what he said was if you have been traumatized in your life, if you've gone through terrible trauma, you are standing before the judge, And the judge says, you understand you have to come back here on such and such a date. You have to do this, and you have to do that, blah, 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 blah. And the person nods their head and says, yes, Your Honor, yes, Your Honor, yes, I'd see that happen 100 times. And they didn't show up, or they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Why? 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 Because of trauma, because of what they had gone through. If people suffer severe trauma, they have what's called a dissociation disorder. So a person of authority might be talking to them, but they're not going to listen to you because they can't, because they get squeezed in their chest, the fright comes back, the fear comes back, they do not listen. What he said is if you have acupuncture in the ear before you go before the judge will be able to listen to you, and the person before the judge will be able to listen and to thrive, to do what they're told. Because if you are traumatized, any kind of authority pushing is very bad. It works the opposite way. So what do we do in Illinois now? We don't have the ability to do acupuncture on the ear unless you're a full body acupuncture. What we do is we use these little beads, and that you just put the little bead in the back of the ear, or the front of the ear, wherever, and any place you put it on the ear is good, but right here, if you put right where the ear is halfway down, is the best place. So what do you do then? Well, let me just tell you a secret. One of the things that's good for is me, because I have insomnia. So if I get up and put these things on, these little tapes on my ear with a bead, I go right to sleep. So I'm telling you, we didn't know this in America. We didn't know how important it was. How I found out is I was a chief judge of a courthouse, and I started the first drug treatment court in the state of Illinois. And the men did fine. The men were just soaring. They were doing very well. But the women were doing very poorly. So I went to the Women's Treatment Center, and I said, what's going on? These women are so nice, and they seem like they want to get better. And they said, the men have not all been raped. The women, every single one has been sexually abused, and they suffer from association disorder. So we got someone to do acupuncture, and the women's soared above the men. They actually did better than the men. So I just want to say that all these things can help us help each other. So if you're having trouble sleeping, you can order these little beads. They're a lot cheaper than sleeping pills and not addictive. And you just put them in the back of your ear, or putting something on the ear, and then the next day you'll wake up and you'll be all ready to go. So I want to say one thing too, that the 12 steps are like the 12 steps of AA, NA, OA, all those 12-step programs. It's like going to a fiesta every day to go there. So don't feel sorry for any of us who have addictions, and if you want to talk about telling them to go to get help at a 12-step program, it's like having a fiesta every day for just that hour. But the best fiesta of all is standing up here and looking at all of you and thinking, and just thinking, and saying a little prayer for Puerto Rico, for Father Oscar, for all of you, and what you are doing now, and what you are doing. And I'm so glad to be with the Abogados and Abogadas. Thank you. Thank you very much.